Good evening. Welcome to the March 3rd joint meeting of the Budget Finance Committee and Select Board in reviewing our upcoming budget. First order of business would be for the Budget Finance Committee to approve the minutes of September 24th.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous. I'm going to follow this agenda right through. So we're going to start with provider agencies. I don't know which agencies are actually here right now. I recognize the Snowmobile Club, so I'm going to let you go first. Again, please announce your name.
Larry Wood from Raymond. Al Plummer from Fort Vista Road in Raymond.
And what are you looking for from the town of Raymond?
Just the same as we have been, trying to keep the trails open and safe and keep a good recreation program for the winter time and just continue with it.
You're requesting 2,000.
2,000. Do we have individual agency listed in here? Agencies?
Yes. Page 47. Yep, they started at page 37. That's where all the agency, the stuff that they all submitted.
Okay, thank you.
And the Rattlers is on page 47.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Any questions for the Snowmobile Club?
How much did they receive last year?
I don't think you've requested this year's yet, so we're gonna work on that.
Yeah, I think you had submitted that, right?
I think it was 2,000.
Okay.
But don't we limit it to the amount of the registrations and the snowmobiles?
We do
And
that.
how much was that last year?
It was like a touch over 2,000.
Okay.
Yeah, if it was, if it were over, if it were under, then what,
So
they would be capped at that.
If I may.
Yes.
Is the wording in the budget proposal up to $2,000 as long as the registrations exceed $2,000?
Well, that's a good question.
No.
No? Don't you think that's the way it ought to be worded?
Well, it's actually, if the way it's done this year, it's underneath the rec department budget.
Oh. Okay.
I would-
Which is a whole new budget.
Right.
I think the point that I make every year, so I might as well make it again very briefly, is that it's snowmobiles, but it's also, the trails are open to people who would walk, cross-country, ski, snowshoe, dog sleds, you name it. So when I was doing the snowmobile thing when my son was younger, I saw all those activities and more. So there are people are using it for winter recreation, using the trail system.
Oh, I have no problem with the $2,000. It's just the wording in the budget to
Well,
make
what I'm trying to do
sure.
is make a nexus with the idea of snowmobile registration.
Yeah.
There are other users that are not related to snowmobile registration.
Right.
That's all.
Practical matter, that would be. I thought we talked about this last year where the snowmobile registration income would wash to the expense,
Last year there was
Whatever that was.
$105 that was not.
but whatever it was, right? So
We can write the article for this year, however you choose to write it. That would be the selectmen's purview to write it the way that it's satisfactory to the people that are gonna be voting on it. So, I mean, those articles are not written yet, so certainly you could.
Would it be a separate article if you're putting it under the recreation department budget?
No. If we're doing it inside, you know, because you've got in the rec budget, you've got that, you also have Raymond Rec, and you have
Tassel Top?
and the baseball.
Right.
They're in there, so, you know, essentially, what you could do there is, you know, as far as the town manager working with the rec director, saying that, you know, if that's not there, then that amount is going to be able, you know, so he's going to have to authorize that out of his budget.
Right.
So that could be a direction, I would agree with that, from the Board of Selectmen to the town manager to the rec department.
Do we know how much we've collected so
What
far?
direction?
The limitation on the appropriation.
To go back and equate the income and expense as a
Correct.
wash item? Okay,
Right.
okay.
Do we know how much we have so far from them? Kathy?
We've gotten this year's, we won't get next year's until next January or so.
There's a year left.
But I mean, we were just over the 2,000 for this year, correct?
I believe so.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite RTP. Is there a representative from RTP? Thank you.
Let me check it though.
Good evening. My name is Deb Fritzen, and this is my colleague, Belinda Hutchinson.
I'm from Westbrook. Probably should throw that out there, right?
Probably not, maybe not. I'm new to RTP. I've never been to Raymond before, so I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm the new accountant at RTP. I can appreciate how you all are working very hard to stretch your budget dollars. I get that. And thank you very much for your consideration for our application. We're here tonight to ask for support for the bus route that we call the Lakes Region Explorer. It's a bus that runs between Bridgeton and Portland 4 round trips a day, every weekday. We've recently expanded the route to include the Bridgeton Hospital on the north end and an extra stop in Wyndham too. We make a stop in Raymond. We have regular riders that come from Raymond. We can't tell exactly where, when someone gets on the bus, we don't ask them what town they live in, but we've had over 1,000 boardings from Raymond, which is sort of indicative of how much we're serving the town. We have over 10,000 boardings in all on the bus route, and it's a growing route, like I mentioned, new stops. We also have a brand new bus in service, a bigger bus. Our new bus, it seats 24 passengers and has capacity for 2 wheelchairs. And it's very exciting, has free Wi-Fi on board, a bike rack that holds 2 bikes on the front of the bus. You've probably seen it going up and down the 302 corridor. And we're very excited about adding a Saturday service this summer between Memorial Day and Labor Day. The bus will make 3 round trips between Bridgeton and Portland every Saturday. And that hopefully will take some of the tourist traffic out of the 302 corridor. We're very excited about that. We've had a lot of positive feedback about that. It's a very comfortable ride. Our passengers have raved about being able to work on their laptops or sleep, and hopefully they wouldn't drive their own cars and sleep while they're driving. But we're hearing good feedback from that from our passengers too. Our drivers give out transfer tickets to anyone who wants to connect to the Metro and South Portland bus when they get to Portland. We also accept transfer tickets from the other bus routes so in Portland, if a passenger gets on with a transfer ticket, they don't pay a fare, and we honor all of those transfers. I don't need to tell you all this, you know how it works. The local support that we get is critical to RTP. We use that to leverage other federal and state funds that we get to support the agency and this bus route in particular. We are asking for the same amount of support from all of the Lakes Region towns, Bridgeton, Casco, Naples, Wyndham, and Raymond. We're asking for $8,500 from each of those towns. And in closing, I would just add that bus transportation is convenient, it's affordable, it's environmentally friendly, it takes traffic out of the 302 corridor, and we appreciate every dollar you can do to support us. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Right,
Deb, yes.
Belinda. Any questions for the RTP guests?
What is your fare structure now? Is it still the same price whether you get on in Bridgeton or whether you get on in Portland?
Yes, the maximum fare is $3 from Bridgeton all the way to Portland. We have discounted fares for seniors and for students. Monthly passes are available too at discounted rates. We try to keep it affordable for everybody.
It's always been one of my problems with the fare structure is
Right.
someone from Bridgeton, 25 miles away from here, pays the same $3 as you do going from Raymond. It just mathematically, doesn't make sense. If you were to take an Uber, you'd be paying a lot more to go to Bridgeton than you would to come to Raymond.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Don.
The other thing on math, which is more Joe's thing probably than mine, but what occurs to me is the notion that there's a differential in size between the communities. $8,500 to Wyndham is different than $8,500 to Raymond or Casco or Bridgeton, and there's a differential in the amount of ridership. Larger town, more riders; smaller town, fewer riders. So normally when you do municipal formulas, you factor in things like population, valuation, and use.
Fair point.
Do you know what the growth rate was for the ridership previous year to this year?
I don't have the previous year ridership
That's all right, I don't
with me
wanna-
tonight.
push it too hard.
I could get that for you
No,
and
no,
get back
no,
to
that's
you.
okay. We can look it up.
Here's total here.
Last year.
No,
That was,
when I looked at it, it was up about 4 passengers.
Yeah, third of them, yeah.
Any other questions?
So that would,
Nope.
that's my favorite, by the way.
All set? Thank you very much.
Can I just add one quick note too?
Sure.
I have noticed that the brochure for the Lakes Region Explorer is on your website. Thank you very much for doing that. We have an updated brochure, so I want to make sure to connect with maybe you in the future to get the updated brochure on the website. Thank you.
The other thing I will say is that I've been attending the age-friendly, Raymond age-friendly meetings, and there has been, presentations, and there's a connection between age-friendly and the bus, and so we're trying to figure out that last mile dilemma that we talked about, getting people to the bus, and so there is, or appears to be, good support and for the bus from the age-friendly community, and trying to find solutions to get people in need to the bus, which is a problem, but we're working on it.
Yeah, Joe.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly on your ridership. So let's take June of last year. You had 104 riders altogether. How many times do you go up and down? Four trips.
There are 4 round trips every weekday.
Okay. So that 104 riders, that breaks down to about 4 people from Raymond?
You're looking at June,
I just
the
picked
boardings.
Yeah,
So there were 104 boardings
in
in
Raymond.
Raymond in June.
So in June, you assume like 22, 23 days a month because you only go Monday through Friday, right?
Right.
So that's about 4 people,
About
a
yeah,
day.
That makes sense.
A
Yep,
day.
I follow that logic. Yeah.
right? Is that correct?
Mathematically, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, but like I said, we don't ask people when they get on the bus if they live in Raymond. We imagine that some people who might get on in Raymond might come from a further away town, come to the 302 corridor to get on here. People get on and off in different places. Someone might travel from Bridgeton and get off in Wyndham. Someone might get on in Portland and get off in Raymond. We don't ask them.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me
Yeah.
follow up with that. At what point in time do you charge the fee?
When they get on the
When
bus.
they get on the bus, and that is counted as a ride?
I agree
Yep.
with that too, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So every ride, 104 rides is 3 times that, whatever that.
Unless they buy a
312.
pass.
Unless they buy a pass or unless they get a
No,
senior
you have-
discount or student
Get
discount.
on the bus, so to speak.
Any other questions?
I have just one quick one. Has something changed in the structure and the relationship? I recall GP Cog being involved and presenting in the past, is that right?
Well, GP Cog is still involved.
I was expecting to see our GP Cog friends here.
Rick Harbison.
Right.
He's on paternity leave.
He's on paternity leave. Rick and his wife have just had a baby, so he's
Okay.
on paternity leave. So You have an inferior substitute, I'm sorry.
I just seen, because I knew that they had taken a role in that, and we weren't seeing them tonight, so that's all.
Yeah, that's why.
All right.
You'll see him in the future, I promise. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah, thank you.
Do we have a representative from Raymond Baseball?
Hello, my name's Sarah Davis. I live at 85 Teddy Hill Road in Raymond, and I serve on the board for Raymond Baseball Softball. I'm here representing Joe. Our request for baseball softball is $4,000. It is the same as it's been at least for a couple of years. That was doubled a few years ago at this committee's direction, and we're happy with that. And we support hundreds of kids in the community. We have a growing program. We've started baseball, softball clinics as early as last week. We're offering new clinics to start people pitching and catching earlier in the season to get them more prepared. We will have a name change. You'll see that from us. We converted from Cal Ripken to Little League, so we will be changing our name to Raymond Little League instead of Raymond Baseball Softball, which actually isn't even our official name. It's just Raymond Baseball because in the 80s when we established it, women didn't play sports or something. I don't know. I have no idea why, but anyway, so yep, it's important to us. It helps us keep up the fields, keep them lined. We pay certainly umpires in certain instances. All of our coaches are obviously volunteers. We don't pay for anything like that. Equipment, uniforms, typical recreation expenses.
So,
Sarah, we received a request for funds from Joe,
Yes.
and his amount that he was considering requesting was $2,000.
Oh, okay.
Raymond Rec is 4,000.
The Raymond Rec one, the Raymond Rec one's 4.
Okay. Well, it had been doubled at the discretion of this committee, and I apologize. I must have doubled that amount in my mind, so it's 2,000.
Oh, from the 1,000 to 2,000, yeah. That's
Yeah,
what we did.
yeah,
We
I
did that.
must have been thinking about that wrong. I apologize, $2,000, yes,
Okay.
from Joe. And Joe asked that I speak on his behalf. Joe is the president, to be clear.
Sarah, is there a technical difference between the word Little League? Is that a licensed word, and does that have connotations that apply here?
Yes, it's a licensed word. It is the structure of the organization that you're under, kind of like PTA, PTO.
This
Those
is
are
a
two
nationwide
different
organization.
organizations, yes,
Okay.
as is Cal Ripken, don't get me wrong.
All
We
right.
just
That was my next
converted
question.
because we decided as a board that the Little League structure was better for us. We liked the teams that we were playing in that league. And so before last year, we converted from Cal Ripken to Little League. It offers a lot more opportunities. We think it offers a more exciting brand of play for the different ages we get to play at. And we go to new communities now. In addition to Wyndham, where the girls had already been playing, we travel to Buxton and Standish and more of those sort of surrounding towns. So it offers a lot more opportunities, and we were able to participate in a pretty amazing tournament last year that we hosted right down at Mill Street, and it was really successful.
Little League World Series is in Pennsylvania, too,
Yes.
so yeah.
Yes, that's probably more well-known than Cal Ripken, but they're both, credible nationwide organizations. We just like the structure better of the Little League.
Sounds like a lot of traveling. Is this done by families going to where the games are, or is it transportation provided?
There is no transportation provided. Obviously, we play home games either at Mill Street or at the school. But yes, we do play away games and travel, and like any youth sports, either their family's responsible or other neighbors, friends. I quite frequently take a number of kids to games.
Any other questions? Raymond Baseball.
And I guess I would add just one point of clarification. There were discussions going on with the Recreation Department about the possibility of merging Raymond Rec. Baseball, softball is not currently in those discussions, isn't because of how much goes into that. We have a huge board. It takes a lot of people to run it, and all the rules and things you have to sign up for. That's not a current discussion that's happening. So just to sort of distinguish the two programs.
I understand that they should be separate for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like an agreement everyone
That's fine.
has, so.
That's fine.
But I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that
Yeah.
might not be a line item under the rec budget as you were talking about before.
Actually, it is, yeah.
That's just where it's,
Just where it
where it-
resides,
just
where it
where-
lives in the budget. It doesn't mean anything by that.
Any other questions for Sarah?
Not under baseball.
On
but-
baseball, yeah, on baseball.
Yeah.
On baseball?
No.
No.
Thank you for taking
Are
care
you
of
gonna take
baseball.
Raymond Rec before I sit down?
I don't know. Is
Okay.
it next?
Yep. Yep. Okay, Raymond Rec, right?
Raymond Rec. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Sarah Davis.
Only
I
kidding,
still
only
live at
kidding.
85 Tenny Hill Road, unless my husband's throwing me out. I am the president of Raymond Rec. I just took over presidency at the end of last year from Beth, who did an amazing job, and this community is incredibly lucky to have her. And she did a great job for a number of years, but was ready to be done. Raymond Rec, just to be clear on the programs that we support running, a running club, skiing, soccer, basketball, the karate program we assist with, it's not exactly under Raymond Rec, and the swimming program are all the programs we support. We are seeing incredible growth, particularly at the young ages. K1 is our biggest growth area. A few years ago, because of lack of volunteer participation, we had to cancel our K1, or well, K-2 basketball program, and so we saw some decline in numbers. We brought that all back up, and it is expanding every year. We serve a number of kids in this community. We've never actually pulled numbers on each program and how many participate in the multiple programs, so I can't tell you how many across the board we support, but it's well over 500 across all the programs. I just can't tell you how many of those kids are participating in each of those things. We use the money for lining the fields, for mowing the fields at Agawam is $2,000 of our request goes directly to that, and then the other $2,000 we use to offset our insurance expenses currently.
Any questions for Sarah?
And I will just say one other thing. Our biggest expenses come from the ski program through busing. That's a conversation we have a lot. You know, busing people up to Shawnee Peak can be expensive, and that just is what it is. And then in basketball, helping to offset the cost to use the gym. We have to pay gym fees, and that can be one of our bigger expenses. So anyway, I'd get my removal people worked up.
Yeah, that using the school in your own town and having to pay for that is kind of hard to swallow. But I think too, is I'm hoping with this new rec director program that we can be able to merge in some way, so it saves you guys that $2,000 on insurance and it comes under the town. That is to me like a double dipping in people's pockets between it going on a budget, and that type of thing, and then and being able to help you guys with it too.
And I appreciate that. We pay our insurance. Our insurance comes up January 1st, which is actually terrible because you're trying to do the holidays and renew insurance. But so it runs through the end of the year. We had to pay those costs up front. They're annual policies. As Teresa is well aware, we are engaged as a board in discussing how we can work together with Raymond Rec or go under Raymond Rec or all those things. We haven't had an official vote. We've just been discussing it. We need to continue to meet with the town and have conversations. Obviously, our intent is to do the best thing for the children of Raymond and make sure that we maintain our programs. That's our number one goal. We're all volunteers. The only thing we pay we pay a small stipend. I think it's $15 for refs in basketball, $15 for refs in soccer. Things like that. Other than that, it's all equipment and uniform costs. We keep our costs generally in the $60 range for registration. We try to balance paying for all of our programs with keeping the costs low. Obviously, skiing is more than that because skiing is just a more expensive sport.
But I'm hoping too the same thing again, where we'll be able to come together and mitigate some of those costs.
Yes, yeah, and we figure about $15 per registration goes to insurance costs. So if we were able to come out into the town, that'd be a huge savings for everybody.
Don?
I just want to say that our intention as a town is to improve the breadth and depth of our services, and you'll hear more later from our new rec director, who's got a couple weeks under his belt now. But so I think that by harnessing the energy of the volunteers we've always had and the resources human resources, financial resources of the town. You know, our goal is to improve what we offer, so we have the same mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And it still takes all of us, you know, you still
You're gonna
need
need
all
those
the coaches,
volunteers.
you need
He's
all
not gonna be
the,
out running every game.
that's exactly, you still need all of
Or
that. So it's a
maybe-
partnership.
Yeah.
Is this a new request for $2,000 more? Because it
Nope.
used to be,
Last year, we made that
Last
request
year
for
was
the
the
first
first
At
year.
time.
homes, I know something different.
okay.
Soccer, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
last year was the first time that we doubled it, but this
Okay.
is, we're coming back with that same request.
They put things in different categories, I think, this year, yeah.
Any
Anything
other
else?
Raymond or Rick questions?
I'm a little bit confused about the fee structure. If, for example, I have a child that wants to go on a ski trip, is there a cost to that?
To participate in
Shopper.
our ski program on Fridays, yes. There
Okay.
is a registration cost that includes both the busing and the pass. If your kid chooses to engage in rentals, then obviously that's
Okay.
more. So it's
Okay,
set up.
So there is, if you want to go, you pay.
Absolutely, and that's a little more, I think it might be 150.
I
That
picked the
program's
expensive one, I know.
200,
I know.
okay,
Yeah.
200.
Okay,
My
nice.
kids weren't able to participate this year, so I don't remember the exact cost.
Only because somebody just asked that recently, yeah.
Yeah, we do a good job. We take a lot of time. We make each of our directors, so we have assigned directors under each program, and each director is responsible, like in any organization, for managing to their budget. And we use this money to offset some of those costs, but other than that, they have to operate within the budget to cover their portion of all these fees and then cover whatever their program is. And that's why the skiing program costs a little more than to play basketball.
Okay, and I know I picked the expensive one.
Yeah.
How much of that is bus?
How much of that is best?
And how
It's-
much of that bus is, where is that money being spent for bus?
Well, okay, so I'll follow up with you, but we rent a bus through Custom Coach and Liberty.
That's all I need to know, right there.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
don't have the specific,
I don't need
exactly
to-
how much
don't
it
need
is,
to
but
know
I can send
anything
it to
more.
you.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it does not go to the school.
Okay, the fee for the pool would be also pay-per-play, so to speak?
The swimming is out
Swimming is at the
Summer.
beach.
At the beach, okay. I
Yeah,
thought it was
so we
the
don't
pool.
pay for
Okay,
it.
all right, okay.
I think it's just the lifeguard, yeah.
It's the two, we have two swimming instructors, two certified swimming instructors, so
And that's at Crescent, or is that somewhere else?
it's the one off of 85 down here.
Crescent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
yeah.
Anything further?
Trying to
Any other
save those
questions?
costs,
Oh,
yeah.
he's supposed to have some.
There's a lot of money to get saved there.
Yeah.
Man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next up, we invite the library to come forward.
Just those three, that's what's counting.
Good evening. I'm Paul Cullinan, Spiller Hill Road in Raymond. I'm the treasurer of the Raymond Village Library's Board of Trustees. And I welcome this opportunity to talk about our budget. And with all of you, tonight with me is Lee Walker, another trustee, and the library's director, Allison Griffin. Let me begin by expressing the RVL's board's appreciation for the support we've received from the town over the past several years. That steady support has been crucial to our growing imprint on the Raymond community and is greatly appreciated. Another aspect of the support you've given us is by appointing Teresa Sadek as your representative. She jumped in with both feet and has given us new ideas and a different perspective that have been very helpful. The library as a whole has been experiencing a good year this year. Each of our fundraisers has exceeded its budgeted target. Our senior hours continue to be more and more successful. Our collaborations with the Raymond Arts Alliance and Community Gardens have contributed significant benefits to the community. Our children's and adult programming has attracted thousands of participants in the last year. We continue to issue new library cards to dozens of residents. In order to build on these successes, we proposed a budget of $117,603, which is virtually identical to the one we proposed last year. Our actual spending for this year will be much lower than what we budgeted, what we had hoped for last year, partly because we had to constrain certain spending, and that we didn't expand our hours the way we had hoped to at that time. Minimum wage increases and increased prices of books and other materials continue to strain our finances. The proposed budget projects about a $5,000 deficit, which we are trying to eliminate through additional fundraising activities. Alternatively, we'd have to dip into our reserves to cover that shortfall. We're asking in our proposed budget, the town increase its support by $6,000 for a total contribution of $66,000. We believe the increase will allow us to continue to provide critical and valuable services that the library delivers to this community. Before I end, I want to acknowledge the healthy financial position of the library. We now hold, at least until the recent financial situation, about $230,000 in reserves. Overall, the past 2 years, the RVL's board has been discussing among its members the need for additional space if we're continuing to grow and flourish. And I emphasize the flourish aspect because our space is really causing us to have certain significant constraints on our activities. We're now looking into the possibility of an addition of a multi-purpose room for our programming and other activities. We're having some preliminary plans done through which we might be able to assess the potential costs of various sized expansions. If we do eventually expand our footprint on the current site, that building project would absorb a substantial amount of the capital reserves that we have set aside at this moment. So that that part of these reserves built up through an unexpected grant a couple of years ago that didn't have any particular constraints on it. So we started to think about those potential space adjustments that would help us greatly. So I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Paul. I must say, I did participate in the flower show this past year, and I was amazed at how much is going on at the community garden. Just driving by on Meadow Road, you don't really see how big and how used it is. And I was impressed by that.
It is really a thing to behold in the summer. There really are a lot of people who come in. I think it was a 250-pound donation to the community's food pantry this past year. So it's an activity that much of the community enjoys, and it has a fruitful outcome to it.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions for Paul? Yeah, Joe.
Paul, how many individual donors do you have in your annual appeal?
The guess is, or the approximation right now would be 250. We can get you a specific number if you'd like.
And what makes you so optimistic that you're going to get a 15% increase in your appeal?
We did very well last year. We reached 35,000 in last year's appeal. We sought a much bigger increase this year, in part because we had foresaw a larger potential hole in our budget, so we pushed the limit where it was obviously very optimistic. We didn't budget for that increase that we sent the appeal out for. When we sent the appeal note out this year, we requested that people donate such that we could reach $43,000. That was a real push. We haven't gotten there. But this year we did a much more extensive background on mailing lists and work to get a more up-to-date and more complete list of potential donors. So we would hope that we would do a little better than we've done so far, but we're still open to contributions.
Go ahead, Teresa.
I talked to Paul the other night because one of my concerns was, because I want to make sure I understood it fully. With their reserves, if they go and build this addition on, I'm really concerned that it's going to take up their reserves and they're not going to have anywhere else to dip into if they need money. So like the rec program and like the baseball program, I would love to be able to see us come together, with a space that we could all use for a community where their fundraising can go towards the products instead of the space and stuff like that. So which is my great time to put in a plug for, we're going to do the Festival of Trees this year as a fundraiser down at Camp Hines on Plains Road.
This was one of those ideas that I mentioned.
Yeah, and we're gonna work with the crafters and the PTO. So everybody's gonna be in like the one big building to benefit. So if anybody wants to do a tree, call the library or whatever. But it's one of the things we're hoping that it's something new this year. And that's one of the things I brought up, that, you know, maybe some new fundraisers for their money to be able to bring in some more community support. But I am concerned about the reserves being used for that addition, but that's something that they've got to decide what to do.
Well, let me just, part of it is that some of these programs are really quite integral to the library's mission. The children's activities are wonderful. They've been very successful, but they're also quite boisterous hours. And it makes the rest of the library less inviting to other demographic groups. In many of those activities, we have to spend some time, or I say we, the staff, spend some time moving these bookcases around so that the space is there for the activity. The problem with that is that half the time we block off a half to 2/3 of the bookshelves by turning them around, so we lose the access there. We have to constrain our participation in some of these activities, and we've had several of them that have long waiting lists, hoping that somebody will drop out, and we can't accommodate that. So we're looking into a potential multi-purpose room expansion. The size will be dependent in large part upon what the costs come in at, and we're trying to figure out what that is. We're still in the early stages of this, but we feel that we really are extraordinarily constrained by the space we have right now. The staff spent the month of January weeding the collection. And so it means that when you go in some classic book, let's say you were interested in the Robert Caro series on Lyndon Johnson. Well, maybe because they haven't been taken out in a while, maybe the first 2 volumes of that had to be pulled out of the collection. Some of the mystery series, we have to pull out the first one. So if somebody gets interested in them, then we have to go back to interlibrary loan to get those. So we are extraordinarily constrained by our current space.
No, I know you are. And him and I talked to him last night about it because I just had some questions about it. But they do offer a lot in their small space. And I have moved those shelves. And I said a lot of bad words, moving those shelves and taking the books off. And yeah. So I get that.
Any other questions for Paul? Yeah, Ralph.
Under your fundraising expenses, was that for getting the mailing list and updating that, or at one point I know that you had looked at kind of subbing out some of the fundraising, and you lose a percentage, but there's generally your probability on those that you're going to turn more look at all of that.
Yeah, some of this was the brochure might have been a little more involved this year than it has been in the past. I mean, we tried to invest a little money at the front end to hope we'd catch somebody's attention to be maybe either contribute or to be a little more generous this year than they had been in the past. But that's a note that our fundraising, that is one of the only areas I think in our budget where we went over our budget in terms of expenditures.
And did you see, are you seeing some payback from that as far, in the fundraiser, in the appeal you're doing this year, you're saying you're...
Right now we are almost...
completing that to...
Right now we are almost at where we were last year. And we're going to send out another email appeal to try to bolster that in the coming weeks. So.
I mean, where I always have the concern is, if you do the expansion, now that's a sunken cost.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything that's going to back it up as far as additional revenue that's going to come in to help offset that, all you've done is created more empty space, and that's not what your goal is. Your goal is to try and have something as a library and whatnot, and part and parcel to that is trying to pick up in the number of donating units that you have and things like that. You know, if someone, you know, if you have 250 people and they all just add $5, that's not going to get you a whole lot further down the road. It's going to get you further down the road if you go from 250 to 500.
Yep, no, but we are looking at this, and we are looking again as to analyzing new donors versus the those who have been donating for years, and whether their patterns have changed any, and try to figure out some way to do that. Yes, if we do a building expansion, our utility costs will go up a little bit. I don't think we necessarily would need to change staffing, because for instance, the library, children's librarian would be over there with the children's programs and in the same hours. So, but we're cognizant of this is a problem going forward, and we're as Teresa said, we're trying to come up with more and more ideas as to how we can expand these revenue sources.
Joe?
Is the town still providing plowing services?
Yes.
So, where do you list that? You don't list it under your revenue or in-kind contributions anywhere.
That's a good point. I'm not sure.
Well, we how do I want to put this? We try to do what we can do to assist the library, and so if they call us with an issue, and they've been very good about not calling us, they solve mostly their own problems, but you know, at one point we had a budgeted you know,
Right.
appropriation, you know,
Additional $500.
yeah, and so I mean, we try to do what we can do, and it's such a de minimis addition to what we do. It, you know, it's not any big issue to us, and so I suppose though there should be some you know, quid pro quo recognition or something of it, but on our end, it's not a very big deal.
I understand that, but I think you need to put it in here that the town is providing just more than money. It's, you know, there is, you know, plowing a commercial lot is a lot of money. So that there's a lot of value to that plowing and any maintenance that's done on the building by the town.
I mean, we can certainly provide a number, and then you can put that in there. Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking? Yeah.
I just think you need to account for it.
All right.
We can do that.
We'll be in touch.
Don, do you want to follow that up with another question?
I had not a question, but a comment. What a surprise. My comment is getting involved this summer with the Raymond Arts Association down there with my son, and I don't think that you're going to have to worry about if you built a room. You will have to maintain it and operate it, but having it empty is not going to be an issue. There's a real shortage of space for programs like that, and when I saw the space that was involved in what we were trying to do, and it's very, very difficult. And the other thing I would say is that I want to see the Raymond Recreation Department, like the Raymond Arts Alliance, other groups in the community utilizing the library. I think they want that to be a hub of, you know, community activity, and so you know, we're going to try to make provisions for recreation, but I would see us offering things there as well if that was something you were amenable to.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the key, though, is to tie the community into a number of different groups in the community into the library and keep expanding that, and you've done that significantly lately.
I believe the library director and the recreation director have already scheduled a meeting to get to know each other and talk over things.
I think the broader the community, the greater the likelihood that you're going to meet and exceed your goals and so forth, yeah.
Go ahead, Marshall.
Two things. One, I was under the impression, and I might be wrong, but we're pretty much landlocked with that building. I'm not sure there's a whole bunch of expansion that can happen in that.
It has been discussed with the building people that to find out what additional dimensions could be absorbed on that lot. It goes further toward Main Street than you might think. There's more land there than associated with the lot than you might think otherwise.
And the second thing is, my complaint is the same this year as it was last year, where we see no growth in hours for staff, and yet your reserves are increasing. Now you're claiming that 235,000 up from 214,000 last year. I mean, where do we start putting money into library functions and not reserve functions?
Well, part of it is the notion that we were looking to use a chunk of it for building expansion.
Okay, but
Now,
not
if
to
that's
argue with you, Paul, but that's been a 3-year-old story. Where is the growth in the actual day-to-day operations of the library coming for personnel and hours and things like that? Where is that coming from?
where's it going to
Where is
go?
your plan for that?
We'll get back to it. I mean, it sort of is one of these things where, in fact, you wouldn't believe how productive
Oh, I
the-
have no
the
doubt.
folks
I
that
no
we
doubt
have
you've got
are down there.
highly qualified staff, I have no doubt, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point seems to be you're continuing to reserve and reserve and reserve, and you're not building up your core services. Thank you.
Any other questions for Paul? Thank you, Paul.
I invite you all to come down and stop by. I'm sure we've got a book in the collection that would greatly benefit you for your personal enjoyment.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Raymond Casco Historical Society.
No, I'm not gonna. I guess I've agreed to do the best that I can with this. You may have heard there's an election today, and so it's a very small outfit, and apparently the people who would be representing the Historical Society are working the polls in Casco. Frank McDermott is still in Arizona, so, and so it's a very, very, very small group, so, we'll do the best, Kathy and I, that we can to answer any questions or to get any additional information that you might need. Of course, you're all aware of the catastrophic fire and the loss of their materials. They've built or rebuilt a replica schoolhouse. They're seeking, donations of new or additional materials and funds to replenish the collection. They lost over $100,000. It's a great facility. I've visited it many times, and interesting collection. And so I'd encourage people to go see it. But if you look at the size of their budget overall and the dependence they have on the town appropriation, that tells a great deal of the story. They are trying to build an endowment for the future so that it can be, more self-sustaining, or hopefully one day self-sustaining. And, pardon me? Why don't you go ahead? Instead of whispering in my ear.
Oh, well,
You threw off my momentum.
Sorry, part of the insurance proceeds are gonna sit there and wait until items come up for sale to help replenish their collection, because they lost so much stuff in the
Right.
fire, so.
But anyhow, so, for preserving our cultural and historic artifacts and working interlocally with our town in Casco, it's, in my view, a small investment, and, they do a very good job curating and preserving these things, and so that's what it's all about, and I think future generations will appreciate the fact that we did that, and that these things exist and continue to exist moving forward. So on behalf of the Historical Society, I'm hoping that, something that we can support.
For the matter of record, the
$1,800.
request about is $1,800.
$1,800, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Do you have any questions for the Historical
Is that
Society?
the same as last year?
Correct.
It is, yeah.
I know they had an expense. He did mention that they had to repaint their mural. You may have noticed their mural on the side of the building, and that cost them some money in addition to they've had some extraordinary things happen, but that was something he mentioned to me. But if there's any questions or any additional information, we will get it.
Okay. Thank you. That's historical. Raymond Waterways, please.
Neil Jensen, 315 Meadow Road, president of Raymond Waterways.
And I'm Locke McDonald. I live on Cobb Road in Raymond. I'm on the board. Little bit of information for the courtesy boat inspections that we do. We start that up on Memorial Weekend, and we inspect all the way through to Labor Day weekend. Mostly it's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday, and the holidays, the Mondays of, usually it's Memorial Day, usually it's something around the 4th of July, and usually it's something around Labor Day weekend. We do that at the 4 public boat launches that are available as long as we have the personnel to cover. Last year, we had 8 inspectors as well as 10 volunteer inspectors. The 8 inspectors got paid and to fill in for times when we didn't have enough people. We asked the different lake associations to come up with a list of people that might want to volunteer and do some inspecting. So we trained all those people about how to inspect the boats and what to look for, and then we go through that. We also had an intern last year who was very, very helpful in terms of not only scheduling but filling in spots where people weren't around to inspect, and also did some other things, so some counting and worked in a couple of other places for us, but we don't expect to do that again next year. We hope to have a supervisor as well as probably someplace between 8 and 10 inspectors to work the weekends. Last year, there were 1,328 hours of inspection time. There were 4,121 boats inspected, and there were 11 plants that we identified and pulled off of boats. None of those plants were invasive. You're all probably pretty aware of the issues that most of the lakes around us have. As a matter of fact, we have some issues in Sebago Lake that are being cleaned up with milfoil. But what this group is trying to do is to keep any of that from coming in from different lakes. Having worked at a couple of the shifts myself, I've found it very encouraging that most of the people that come down to the lake with a boat to put it in are aware of what it is we do. They're aware of why it is we are doing it, and they usually are very, very helpful. The tough part is getting the non-motorized vehicles and trying to track them down, inspect. People that come down to the boat launches and pull the kayaks off there are fine, but it's tough to follow the people around the lake that just have their own place and put it in. Okay? So thank you in the past for your support, and we look for that to continue. Any questions?
How was your milfoil efforts last year? Do you have any facts on that? Thank you, Neil.
I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. Let me start with the definition. Most of you are probably familiar with it. When we talk about the milfoil, we use the term maintenance condition, which means that the last time we went to a particular area, either we couldn't find any milfoil there, or we found some, but we removed it. So when we left, it was clean. But we know that we have to keep going back, because I can tell you the first time through, we never get all of the roots and seeds and everything out of the muck. And most of these places are exposed to the open lake. So the floating fragments that come in from other towns, we'll pick on them, can drift in or be brought in on boats and settle in close to shore and grow in shallow water. So I've been actively involved with Raymond Waterways for maybe 10 or 12 years. And for that time, we've been working on 7 areas of milfoil, mostly in Sebago Lake, also in Panther Run or Jordan River, whichever you want to call it. At the end of last year, 2019, with the exception of
a few hundred feet of the river, and a couple of plants in Dingley Brook. Those 7 areas were all in maintenance condition. We've finally treated milfoil that's been there for probably 50 years in some cases. Opened those areas up to boating, swimming, fishing. So, as I say, we know we're going to have to keep going back on it, especially the most recently cleared areas. But last year, to give you an example, we removed over 400 corn bags, if you're familiar with those, of milfoil, and cleared over 7,500 feet estimated of bottom area of milfoil. So there are none of the old growth stands of milfoil are left. So this year, as I say, we know we have to go back this year and go over those areas, particularly the most recently cleared ones. And we should have plenty of work to do. Should have a good crew to do it this year. I just want to bring this up, just looking forward beyond 2020, as we go into 2021 and beyond. If we don't have an explosive growth of milfoil or one of the other invasive plants, we may reach a point where it just is not practical for us to support a dive crew for the summer. And at that point, it may be more cost effective for the town to contract with a milfoil service like Cliff Cabral's New England Milfoil, one of those. But you don't have to worry about that for this year. I just want to give you a heads up that it may be coming in a year or two. The point where I can't hire a dive crew for the summer and then tell them they have 3 weeks of work and that's it. I can't support all of that equipment for that much work. So it may make sense to shift to a different approach there. Going back to 2019 now, we consulted with 7 waterfront properties, the owners of 7 waterfront properties who were concerned either about suspicious plants or about erosion on their property that was taking soil into the water and potentially polluting the lakes with phosphorus. And we took water quality samples from Panther Pond because they're concerned about the state of phosphorus in Panther Pond, and they don't have the special equipment to take deep phosphorus samples. We do. And we also provided someone to take Secchi samples of water quality readings in Raymond Pond to keep the flow of historical data intact for that pond now that they don't have an active lake association of their own. So, along with Locke's business, that's what we've been up to. Questions?
Thank you, Neil. Your request this year is for $16,000.
Yes, it is.
Are there any questions for Neil? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you at the boat launch.
Yeah. Gotta get a boat first.
Yeah. On your boat, right?
Come on down.
Next up, the Hawthorne Community Association.
Abel Bates, 55 Stark Cove Road, Raymond. I'm here as one of the trustees, as is Gil and Barbara Brown and Becky and Paul Tracy. I want to thank you for your past support and ask that you continue it for another year, $1,000. Should be quite useful this year. We're planning a major fundraiser. We have some pretty serious construction issues that are going to have to be addressed at the house. We are currently applying right now for 2 grants And we have a number of other grants that we're considering applying for, and a lot of those grants are matching funds grants. And our limited treasury is going to have to grow in order that we can apply to these matching fund grants. So your continued help would be much appreciated.
Thank you, Abel.
Questions?
Any questions? Go ahead, Don.
Did the Raymond Arts Association use the building this year?
Yes, they did, yeah, used
So
it a
that was a
couple,
good
2 or 3
thing.
times, yeah. And they plan on using it again this year. We have a request from Maine Preservation, which is a nonprofit that's been in existence since 1972. They want to hold their annual meeting there this year. They are looking for buildings that pre-existed our statehood. And so in March, we're planning on that. We have some other events that we're planning.
I think like the library, the more you can get going there, the
Oh,
better.
absolutely. But if we don't address these
I know.
construction issues, then down the road, we won't be able to.
Go ahead, Rolf.
Where are you on addressing the whole septic issue? I mean, that's, you know, as far as trying to attract in groups or things like that.
Septic
that's-
issue?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I understood, your holding tank doesn't hold that much.
It doesn't hold that much, just has to be pumped more often the more you use it.
Well, I mean, that's, in trying to, is that in the long-term plan?
There's not enough land on that lot to put in a septic system. We could put in a bigger holding tank, but that's it.
Any other questions? Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I believe we've covered all the provider agencies. Is that true? I'm just checking to see if there are any other provider agencies here. Excellent. Next. Scott with Code Enforcement.
Hi, Scott DeVard, Code Enforcement Officer for the Town of Raymond. I live in Bridgeton, Maine on Kilgore Road. Where there is a change in there that we were looking to hire a part-time person as we've looked at some of the complaints that we've had and see where we could improve. We had contemplated whether bringing Mary up would get rid of some of those complaints. We decided, looking back through what we were getting, that it was better to hire a part-time who could help Mary and I. That was one of the issues that we seemed to wanted to improve in.
So this would be somebody who does administration work and also field work.
Yep. Ideally, we'd like to find somebody that would be interested or has current certifications. They would only work 2 days a week. We had contemplated Friday and Wednesday. Mary is gone at 2 o'clock on Fridays. And Wednesday usually coincides with planning board, which a lot of packets and everything have to be out. So sometimes she's running around, like today, she was trying to get some of the stuff done and out to the planning members and took away from her ability to get into the office. And as far as I would need somebody just to make sure if they could streamline the permit process for me, and also to look at trees, tend to see they eat up a lot of travel time for me. And if I could get somebody that would be interested in going out and just, even if it was just a recon, to go out and look and see what they have, come back and report and decide whether or not the tree permit would be issued or if any replanting would be needed. Software stayed the same, and we are looking at seeing if other towns have updated their software. We're trying to figure out trying to get Mary to do some field trips to see Wyndham and Gray use the same software and see if that would be a little more an advantage to us, where we would have people that could fill out a permit online, which we currently do not have. Everything else kind of has basically stayed the same.
How about building activity?
Well, we're busy. I don't have any numbers exactly permit-wise on that. Just by judging what we went through before, Usually you get a lull. I've had a lull of about 2 weeks, and I'm starting to pile drive again on permits. And right now I'm getting a lot of shorefront. You know, we're looking to do something this spring or this summer. What can we do? We just bought a lot. I'm getting a lot of office time with that right now. Commercial, we have a very limited commercial zone, so there really is not a whole lot of action on that. We do have a couple of them that should be coming back up in the spring for Aroma Joe's, and I think we had a couple expansions, but nobody seems to be kind of waiting for financial reasons not to do anything at this time. But other than that, everything kind of just stays the same. So with that, if you have any questions.
Scott, you're recommending an increase in staff, how many hours per week?
It's 16
16
hours.
hours a week. Okay, thanks.
Joe?
So that 20,000 is for the 16 hours a week? Because you have an increase of 20,000 in your personnel line?
Yeah, 20,000.
Well, some of it's gonna be a catch-up with the wages that came from the merit pool, and then the other half is that line with, it's a administrative type position. I think it was in the $15–16 an hour rate range.
So 16 hours a week, full-time, I mean, yearly, like?
For the whole year, yeah.
52?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
not just the summer, just.
Okay.
We did have this in prior to me being here a couple of times, and then I roughed it out a couple of years, but it was more important that it was got to the point that I needed to bring it back.
I know we have a hard time hiring part-time code enforcement officers.
Well, that's going to be, I was
That's
just going to make that point.
say.
There's one thing to say, this is what we're going to do. It's another thing to find that person. So, I mean, that's a valid point. We're going to, but what happened before, I'm not sure that we, made as diligent as search as we could have. And we're going to do it differently and more aggressively this time, but I can't guarantee. I mean, with the labor market being what it is and the unique nature of this job, but what we hope to find is someone like Scott. I think Scott at one time came to us as somebody who was looking to get into the business, and didn't you work with Chris Hansen on that?
Yep, job shadowed him.
And so that's the kind of, we're looking for another Scott, somebody who's looking to get into this business.
I'm almost ready to retire.
Yeah, that's.
Well, there you go. I mean,
Oh my God, that's gonna be on your bucket.
Sign them up now.
By the way, I've been told by several that this is a good gig when you get too old to pound nails.
Yes, I will.
Sure it is.
My shoulders thank my.
I think one of the things I'm worried about is like what Joe said. I know when Chris was here before, we were looking for somebody to help out, and it was $10,000, and we couldn't find anybody for that. So to me, I guess I would ask for more hours and possibly more money, because the way it is growing and the way right now, and this is just me thinking this, is Wyndham, I think people are going to start pushing away from Wyndham because Wyndham is just getting inundated right now with it. And so I think they're going to start looking as close as they can and start coming out this way. But I think you might be undercutting what you're looking for here, and I guess I would ask to maybe look at that number again, because I think we've tried it a couple times and it didn't work at those numbers. People don't want just those low numbers. I think they're going to be looking for a little bit more. That's what I've seen in the past.
Well,
we've tried to find.
Prior to, though, the application was just for assistant code enforcement officer only. So I don't know if we might be able to find somebody who's like has been a secretary or administration for another town, is in retirement, sometimes they're certified in a couple of areas.
Yep.
So they'd be, something that they'd be willing to do. I know Casco just hired somebody, but it wasn't full-time, but she was a part-timer in Harrison.
Or maybe even put it up, and if we have to cut back, maybe go that way. Because I would rather go higher than lower on it. And then that way where we can work. Just my 2 cents.
Don?
Well, my hope would be that we could find, a retired tradesperson who could earn some income but wasn't looking to, have a full-time job. But I mean, her point is a good one. That's another option. But I mean, that would be the ideal candidate. Would be somebody who has some of these certifications, some of this training, and would be willing to come on this basis or some other basis.
when we were transitioning between Chris and Scott, we had 3 or 4 people that were willing to put in a day here and a day
Yes.
there. So I'm a little bit more optimistic about our recruiting. I think we've really punched it up, and
But that was at like $50 an hour.
was it?
Oh, it was a lot, that's what I was just gonna say, it's a lot more than
Those
that,
were
$50,
retired code
$60
officers
an
who,
hour.
I think it's 50 an
It's
hour.
about
$50,
the-
$55 an hour.
$55 an hour, that's the hired gun rate, but yeah, we had people who wanted to do that.
But
Joe will do that.
Get it off.
you come down, I mean, essentially what you're looking at is opportunity cost. Okay? You know, so the question would be, how much development is not coming in because we can't keep up with the load? Versus you bring that in, now you've cut your queue down, but what are you picking up on that? So I mean, you know, that's kind of that balancing that you gotta look at that. I mean, if people are not coming here because we just can't process things quick enough, that's one thing. If it's a fact that you know, the field of dreams, if we have the time, they'll come, that's, you know,
No, I
that's
don't-
not as winnable in our.
I don't think that's it, because he gets everything done, but I think what the issue to me is that, you know, timeliness and efficiency, and, you know, the people have a reasonable expectation of a workman-like, and even semi-speedy process, not a bureaucratic holdup. And then the other issue is some of the things like, you know, we were, you know, talking about this in the office, but the idea of shoreline zoning, I know, her joke is anyone can tell a dead tree in the shoreline zone. I don't know if that's true, I'm not sure I could, but so he's gotta go out and he's processing these higher level things, but there are people who care about, well, I got a dead tree that's gonna fall on my house, you gotta come see it. And so you have to do that. So I think there are environmental and regulatory and legal things that need to be done, and those want to be done quickly too. So there's lots of things pulling at him, but I don't think anything's getting undone. We're not missing any development. Is that right?
You know, just kind of the way I look at that too is, you know, at some point you have some sort of an offset too, because if you built up your capacity and you're now attracting that, and you've got some additional income that's going to come in and new permits and things like that. So I mean, you know, the two tend to work together there. But where I was trying to get a gauge is, you know, are we getting a lot of complaints because things are not getting done in a timely manner? So that, you know.
We don't wanna get those.
No, I know you don't, but I mean, you know, it gets to the point of what's the, you know, what's the
Right.
timeline on when do you need to have something in place too?
Well, I mean, there's nothing set in stone, but I mean, the rule of thumb is you try to get it out as, you know, basically, I mean, the contractors out there will talk. They know how other towns are. If they're slower, they have a tendency, some of them will kind of back off a little bit, not too much, because if they're gonna build, they're gonna build no matter what the delay is. For me, as far as getting the permit on, I mean, when they come and they give a permit, I feel it's my obligation to get that thing out as quickly and as possible. And sometimes in the summertime, we're hitting 3 weeks, which can, you know, they get a little angry. Then you run into the issue where they have subcontractors lined up, and now they've got to push all that back. And the way market is out there right now, if they can't keep who they have, it leads to more delays. So in the end, I mean, we're kind of trying to make them a good company as well as working for the town.
Joe?
Just understand, Mary is gonna continue working her hours, and this person just fills in when she's not there.
On a Friday, she would be.
Right.
The other day would be, that's kind of where we're trying to get that person to do both jobs. Wednesday would be an ideal day for whoever it is to do, you know, we could have one day a week that they can do these tree permits or wherever else I'm needing help in on the code enforcement side. And then on Friday, when Mary's gone at 2, he or she can do the administrative part of it. Yeah, I mean, it may be interesting.
I kind of agree with Ralph on this, though. You bring someone in, you hire them, and then all of a sudden things dry up, and then you go, sorry, we don't need you anymore, or...
I don't see it drying up. I don't see it even, I really
I don't
don't.
know.
At least I would hope not, and we figure out something else. Yeah, with the way things are pushing right now,
I'm gonna build a place.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it all
See, it's
depends
one of
too,
those
I mean, yes, we have a couple subdivisions that they haven't started, they've done rough cutting, one of them is, we had them put off paving, so they've laid off on the building permits. Right now, I mean, if you look at what's out there for sale in Raymond, a lot of real estate agents will tell you there's not a lot out there that we offer. But again, yes, you cannot look in a crystal ball and say, we're gonna be busy for the next 3 years. That is true.
I mean, have we seen a huge uptick on permits? Because
Not a
it hasn't
huge
been-
upticks
Yeah, like, what, 20 permits a year?
for
That's
housing.
kind- Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we're over that, but I don't know, I don't know the numbers, I can't give you an actual figure.
I mean, I guess the other thing you'd have to look at there, are you seeing a higher number of complex situations that are essentially taking, you're having to devote more time to that situation, whereas someone that can do knockoffs can get those taken care of?
Well, Shoreline is like that. Because there is so many issues you have to deal with, setbacks from water, are they putting the BMPs out, you make triplets on that, sometimes that they have a permit for cutting trees within the 100-foot zone, you gotta go out and take a look at that. You try to combine it for inspections, but it doesn't always work that way.
Well, how many times have you been out in the water checking it, or have you had time to do that?
Well, it depends on the house and what
Just
all they're
break
doing.
it
If there's a
down
lot
short.
of structural engineering things on there, I'm usually out there more.
I mean, on the actual water, Chris used to go up and down the
Well,
coast. just
I
to
don't
see.
have any way of doing that. Well, I mean, as
Well,
far
we
as
do
driving.
have a way of doing that, and we've talked about that, but that's a good point too. That actually you pick up a lot of things that
Yeah, Chris found a
are
lot of things.
not permitted.
Yeah.
But to answer your question in dollars, I mean, you're looking at, we're projecting 8 million in new value, but that's a conservative number if history is our guide. And so, there are, multi-million dollar houses, and then they're not all, I mean, there are some that are greater than that for a, for a single development, but they don't all come to fruition or finish in a single year. So you have what you have new ongoing, and then, everything from outhouses to multi-million dollar mansions, conversions on the lake, and then you have the inspections that are attendant to that. You have the expectation of people do that, and they should, that they can come in and meet one-on-one with him and can do that at will. And I mean, I was there this morning, guy waiting for him. Time to talk? Yeah, I got a half an hour. I got a meeting in a half an hour, but you got that in. So he's busy. He's pulled in a lot of different directions, and I'm maybe more getting persuaded by Teresa's idea than this one. But anyway, I don't think the issue of having enough to do is going to be a problem.
I would assume that we've got cross-training opportunities and all that stuff too.
Yes.
To keep a person busy. I don't think keeping somebody busy is a problem.
We
As long as we don't restrict that person to, filing A to C.
Correct.
The name of the game in the town of Raymond, and hence the low staffing level, is cross-training
Cross-training.
and multitasking. I mean, Kayla serves 3 different departments. Mary today, I mean, she was really busy getting out her packets, so I blow in and say, oh, by the way, I need 500 more ballots, and so we drop everything and get that done between the front office, which was understaffed because we had people at the polls, plus Mary. It's a challenge at times. There's always stuff happening.
Any questions?
Good. Well,
Thank you, Scott.
directly.
Yeah.
Recreation, please.
Joseph Crocker. I do live in Wyndham. Thank you guys for having me. This is my 3rd week here, so I don't know how much help I can be on the budget side, but I have been asked to kind of present my background, my credentials, and talk a little bit about going forward with recreation. So I do have 10 plus years of experience in recreation. Went to St. Joseph's College, graduated, exercise science degree, came right in and got pretty much a internship into as a program aide. Worked my way up to there. Decided that I needed more business skills. I got my master's in business administration and sports and recreation at New England College, and then got my certification in Parks and Rec professional through the National Recreation Parks Association, which is the national governance of Parks and Rec. I also sit on the Maine Recreation and Parks Association board as treasurer there. That houses about 270 rec professionals with conference training, other type of different educational sessions, everything like that. So that's a little bit about my background. Going forward, the last couple of weeks has really been gathering information, a lot of community outreach with different organizations, volunteer groups, some people popping in, saying hello and meeting them. Also, the other priority is Hasseltop, making sure that is staffed, creating a operations manual, staffing, organizational chart, really kind of going in and making sure this beautiful 30-acre park is up and running. So those have been the two main priorities the last couple of weeks. Also, we're looking at recreation software that can help with efficiencies, reservations, future program registrations, and a lot of data collection that we could present for hopefully future capital improvement projects, other type of projects that might be pushed through. So.
Figured out yet
And significant improvement in cash management.
who did that?
Correct, yes. Online payments, no more cash handling, as much cash handling as before. So yes, that's all I have.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome to Raymond.
Thank you very much.
Hang on a minute, hang on a minute.
Okay, sorry.
We do have some
You
questions.
can't go back to Wyndham yet.
Right.
What is your personnel count? Just you?
Yes.
Is that the 60,000? Yes.
Well, you know, under salaries, we're showing 87,000.
Okay, that must be combination with Tasseltop.
It is.
That's,
Okay.
you get
Tassel-
27 at Tasseltop and 60.
Yeah.
Yes.
So by way
Over
of
to
background,
Yeah.
Tasseltop, of course, as you know, is governed by and managed by an independent board of directors, now be absorbed as a department of the town under the rec department. So, you know, whereas in the past, the board of directors would do the, you know, recruitment and hiring, you know, retention of the employees, that sort of thing, management employees directly. That's something we're gonna do, he's gonna do, I'm gonna do.
So that 27,000 is to hire someone to run the place in the summer?
That's all the people.
Staff.
That's all the
All
staff.
staff.
Right, he's not, we had a head ranger, we're not gonna, I don't wanna try to quote the organizational chart.
Let
but
me,
we- Go ahead.
the staffing, when I built the budget for Tasseltop this year, I included in staffing a maintenance person, two at the gate, and 2 or 3 at the snack shack, because those people are very, you know, okay. So, I think we need one more person down there as kind of a beach monitor, trash pickup, fight stopping, that kind of person, okay? You know,
I could do that with my 16 hours
sure.
as CEO.
There you go. There you go. You know, you're gonna get them. Okay? Keep the ducks out of the water, that kind of, we need somebody to do that kind of stuff. So we were looking at it, I think 6 people. These people don't start until like May 31st anyway, so it's a very short, I think it was 13 or 14 week budget we built in for that, okay? The income stream from Tasseltop is sufficient to offset this. Okay, and hopefully I was vague and yet pinpointed at the
No,
same time.
you did good. Something else that we've been working on too
Yeah.
down there is Mill Street, as we all know, has been sinking,
Right.
coming back. So we have a great big playground unit that we have bought, and we bought a small one down there. So we are looking at utilizing what we have down at Tasseltop to put a playground down there with some picnic tables with their trails. Owens is doing some the work on it right now to do it up, and we're filling Joe in as we go. But what happens is the state wants that land utilized more. The good thing is we're working with the State of Land and Parks and Rec, Doug Beck and David Rodriguez. And Joe knows Doug Beck really well, and they have grants, big grants, that they have matching grants. So he's going to be working and doing that.
Yes, he also
so we can
sits
get
on the
money
board.
for work that's done down there.
So you're gonna move the playground from Mill Street to Tassel?
No, what happened is they have a big unit down there on Mill Street now.
Yep.
And it just needs a couple part pieces. The swing set needs to be redone because it's technically out of date, I'm gonna say that. The back one was tore down, the small one back there, because it was just not any good. We bought a big one and a small one with the 35,000 that we budgeted before. The small one they put there, but that back corner where we were gonna put that other big one, the ground just isn't stable for it. So we're gonna put that at Tassel Top, is what we're gonna do. So Owens is finding a good place to put that, set that up, try to keep the rustic look of Tassel Top, and entice people to go to Tassel Top more for the parks. They're gonna keep the gate closed during the off hours, but people can get to it to snowshoe, ride their bikes, walk on the trails. That's what the state wants us to do.
But
So-
there's no parking down there, is there?
I think one of the plans, Joe, was to back the fence off 75 to 100 feet into the park, which would allow for some limited parking, and that would be on Tassel Top land at that point in time and not Phyllis's land.
But it's also something we have to look at because we don't want people just parking down there and not having
Right.
supervision either. So
Right.
so it's all been kind of in the works. And when the Tassel Top board dissolved, they were all aware of everything that was going on, and we've been working with them and working together. It's been Marshall and I and
Right.
Nathan and Dawn and Joe's now in on it. So we're gonna try and keep.
So now the town has control of Tassel Top?
Correct.
Not this board?
That's
Yes.
right. And
Yes.
we had a staff meeting today, and I mean, this is still under development, just this morning in this room, but
Yeah.
the direction that we're heading in now, we're going to speak with Rolf about this, would be to have a discussion with the Board of Selectmen about working to develop a comprehensive plan for the facility. And a big part of that will be the ability to get significant state administered federal monies for recreational improvements. But we don't want to, at all costs, to erode the rustic quality of the park. But the state had a concern that we were underutilizing it and maybe not utilizing it in a way that directly benefited our own residents enough. So my recommendation is going to be that we look at a comprehensive plan, and that would be something that wouldn't be done, exclusively by staff or engineers. I would hope that it would involve, citizens in a long-range, view, and it isn't going to happen tomorrow.
Do Raymond residents still get a discount to
Well-
go to Tassel Top?
I'm going to answer that one only because the state leases that land to us.
Right.
That's not our land. And they said one of the conditions of that is we do have to offer our town people a lower rate.
Right.
So that is another thing that we're working on too, as far as what the rates are and stuff like that. So it was good to have them come in to give us, some background on it, to let us know what we are doing wrong. And they are really great with letting us fix what we've done wrong. You know what I mean? So it's all fixable and it's good, but I think it's moving in a really, really good direction.
Right, but-
And it's another good place for Raymond to go to and
I'm just
have.
not sure how many Raymond residents actually use.
Well, that's the thing. That's the
Every
thing.
weekend,
I go.
Really?
every single
But
weekend.
there isn't a
I
resident
think it's great.
fee.
Right.
Right now, it's all the same.
But that's
It
the
is,
thing.
and
We
that's what
want
they're
to improve
looking.
its
Yes, that's what we have to do is change that.
That's a
So-
great-
But
visibility.
it was supposed to be discounted for Raymond residents.
Yeah.
When that was bought.
Yes, not bought, it's leased, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
and yeah.
the fee schedule will have a discounted rate for residents.
And that's one of the things that they said has to change,
Right.
and they said that they'll change it if we.
But for this coming year, look for it to be, very similar to what it's been in the past as we move in a potential new direction. The major difference is going to be a different management plan, including, I think a greatly improved cash management system, computerization, and, have a recreation professional who has, deep ties with the agencies in the state of Maine, so we can get some feedback that way. And so it's going to be a baby step process, but I think it's going to be a really great thing for the town, and I'm really excited about it.
It's huge, we're utilizing land that is just, it's prime land, it really is. So Owens has come in and walked it.
Underutilizing land.
Yeah,
Underutilized.
we are, but no, we're gonna utilize it, is what it is, yes.
We have a 100-year deal. We've gone through the first 25. A few years ago, I signed the second 25, and so we've got a commitment there.
The state's good to work with, too.
It's been 25 years.
Yeah.
No wonder I need to retire.
So you only can semi-retire. You already have your next jobs lined up.
You can be a park
Any
ranger.
other rec questions?
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Look forward to meeting you guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Technology, please.
And save the best.
Kevin Woodbury, 20 Egypt Road. Operating budget staying the same. We've got some costs going up gradually. Software never stays the same year by year. You know, they want to get a little more out of you, so especially on the security software. But we didn't need an increase this year. The thing that we're working on to get towards our goal is, like we talked about last year with the initial installment, was the fiber optic network backbone to run from the sand and salt building all the way down to the public safety building and pick up all the municipal buildings all the way along. We have another $50,000 this year, and then one more year we should be able to complete that. We also have in the budget, and I put it in because we have a lot of laptops that are in the fire department, public safety, that are really, really old and need to be upgraded. And we're going to put in for 6 of those this year, so I put that in capital versus in the operating budget. Because those are hardened laptops, which cost about $2,700 a piece. Any questions?
Any questions for Kevin?
Do you still deal with Spectrum at all? They're awful. They're absolutely awful.
That's one of the reasons why we need this backbone, is because Spectrum is the.
Oh my God.
We're paying, what is it? $1,100 a month for 100 megabit service, and it's just not.
Turtle
It's
speed.
not. What we have between the building here and the town office, we have our own link, which is a gigabit link, which we put in, I don't know, 15 years ago, whatever. So we can do our backups and have off-site backups for the town office. And that's what we use. So we have servers in the other room here. What we want to do is we have no off-site backups for the servers down at the public safety building. And we really want to get this backbone in so that we can just have 2 places. We'll remove the data center or the data cabinet out here, and we'll have just town office and the public safety building, and they'll be backing each other up. And we'll be able to get rid of 3 or 4 firewalls and 3 or 4 connections to Spectrum. We'll only need 1 connection at that point, just the one at the town office. And we're hoping in the future that we can get some community-based, municipal-based fiber project going between all the communities around, so that we can get away from Spectrum and get some decent service at a decent price. But I don't know where that stands now.
Well, we have multiple initiatives that are underway, and the progress has been
Excruciatingly
That is
if
fast.
I talk of all deliberate municipal speed, I would say much slower. So, but we're still optimistic. I mean, we have change in the administration. There's a different view from the state on it, and hopefully there may be at some point a different federal, view. And so, I mean, we're doing what we can do. It's a daunting task. It's expensive infrastructure, but it's essential infrastructure to the future of the state. And so, we're working on it. We're working on it with the county. We're working on it as a group of towns. Wyndham having the transition of their town manager has slowed things down, and so we've kind of been the, I would say, the lead and most interested community by a significant measure. And so I'm also working with GWI. They had some grant applications in. I think they're going to try again. But what kind of blew us out was, what the CDBG would call the LMI factor. We have, we're not an impoverished town, and so that counts against us. But we're working the levers of opportunity as best we can, and it's difficult for us. It's difficult for everybody. So.
When I moved here in 1994, one of the reasons we came here is because at that point Time Warner offered the highest speed networks in the state. I mean, we were one of the few in the country, we're like the 3 in the country that had that service.
Right, and I
But it
thought-
stayed that way, nothing's improved.
But I found out why that was. I was saying that at a meeting at GWI, and the CEO of GWI said, well, that's of course because the then CEO of Time Warner had a place on the lake in Raymond.
Does Time Warner used to pay a fee in
Yes.
town? Does Spectrum pay a fee?
Yes, I do.
They do.
Yeah, and that is a great question, which I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, and that is that the agreement we have with Time Warner, like every other town around here, expired. Spectrum, now Charter, that expired, years and years ago, and we're not optimistic, or very optimistic, that we can negotiate a better deal. In case folks haven't noticed, that industry is kind of going away, and so, but they have honored the original deal. Although we're fighting like cats and dogs now to try to get them to give us the essential infrastructure that we need, under that contract, I think, so yes, we get that, but.
Well, the franchise fees actually is gonna be going down, because that's not internet service fee, that's just cable TV service fees.
Right.
And people are going
Switching.
away from cable TV service.
But we still get it under the contract, what we agreed to originally, and that's why renegotiating with a dying industry may not be the best.
Kevin, this loop between the schools, the town, sand and salt shed, that's a closed loop?
That would be a closed backbone for
And that would be the fire department, public safety, public works?
works.
Two schools.
Two schools,
And the cemetery.
yeah.
Because they have a lot of usage.
I get the point.
I mean, anything that's on that route, any municipal,
And now we're just looking for somebody to connect to.
well, yeah, and the basic connection, and it's part of the thing, we also, and then we may go with, for a backup, I do this in my business, I back up to Verizon, so when Spectrum goes down, I automatically connect
Yep.
to Verizon. But
I was just curious.
they're putting up, a bunch of satellites. SpaceX is in orbit. I don't know if you've seen that, and they're going to have internet service available there. We may be able to use that for our backup, which would be better than, because the Verizon service here isn't that great. But that's coming online in the next year. And they're supposed to give high-speed internet, low latency.
Can't wait for that. Any hiccups interfacing with the LEDs?
Really, that's not even part of our technology. We just have to have web access for that. So,
Been very, very happy with the real-term energy and with the installer, and, I can't speak to the web interface. What do you think of that?
well, we haven't had much dealing with that,
But
so.
we just got that online, but the lights, I think, went in, was it December, I think?
Yeah.
So I haven't got any complaints. I have got people say that they, think that the lights are improvement in terms of the light output and so forth, but the big thing is, good light output with lower costs and then a municipally owned network, so you're free from the utility, and their charge system, so. Everybody's doing it, and it seems to be working out.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kevin. Animal control.
My audience has dwindled.
You got TV on you, so.
No.
Play to the cameras.
So am I just here to answer questions, or?
State your name.
Jessica Jackson, Animal Control Officer.
And how your responsibilities are split between 3
Casco,
towns.
Naples, and Raymond, yeah.
Okay.
How's the new position? We went to a much enhanced position in many ways. Tell us a little bit about that briefly. How have things been?
Wonderful. I actually appreciate my days off. This has been great, so thank you for supporting me on that last year. I'm doing 5 days a week.
Nice going.
Lynn is covering weekends and evenings. for emergency basis. And it was a little bit of a change for some of the residents, but once they got used to it, and they realized that some of these emergencies weren't quite emergencies, everybody seems to kind of get on board with that, so. Yep.
Call volume.
Call volume, okay, so last year, for the calendar year, because that's how I report to the state, we had 252 calls altogether for the town of Raymond. 205 of those came in through dispatch, the rest of them were all out from outside sources. This year, I have not yet completed, due to a medical issue, my final report, but we had 197 calls that came in through dispatch, and I'm going to guesstimate that we had probably 30 or 40 others that came in from outside sources, because that seems to be about right. So we're even.
What's the most common call you get?
You know, it's always changing. I can tell you that it's dog at large, and then next thing you know, it will be a missing animal. It's really seasonally. Yeah, during the winter, we get a lot of welfare checks. During the summer, we get a lot of loose animals, dogs at large, stuff like dog fights, things like that. In the fall, we get a lot of livestock complaints. Fair time, everybody thinks that the bunnies and the chickens and the pigs are cute. So they all come home, and then I end up chasing them. You know, we just had a 6,000-pound bull the other day that I said pulled up in front of and said, "Well, yep, that's a bull." So I mean,
How many, I think a better question is most unusual call. How many white rabbit calls have you gotten?
One. Oh no, this year none.
I called for a white bunny once.
Yeah.
What? You got an immediate response from our
I did, and we found the bunny back.
State
Bunny got back to his home.
Have you had any calls
You did.
rabid animals?
Huh?
Had any calls about rabid animals?
No. Nope. So last year we had 2 dogs that had attacked 1 raccoon that did turn out to be rabid, and those dogs were quarantined, and nothing came of that. We haven't had any issues in any of the towns actually with the rabid animals in contact with domesticated. We're really quick to get on that though. Even we've had a couple issues with hunters running dogs that are not vaccinated, and I take that very seriously too. And the last time that happened, I put the dogs under a 4-month quarantine because the animal wasn't able to be tested for rabies. So the word gets out that I'm a bully when it comes to rabies prevention, but it's working.
Good.
Yep.
Many coyotes? Many coyotes around?
Oh, typical, our pack numbers have stabilized from what I can tell, so, which is good, because the hunting, of course, increases them.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
we have a purpose-built vehicle now, which is still holding up, and so that has a aluminum, or I think it's aluminum clad interior, or
Yes, yep.
and it has an electric pneumatic door, so that she can open it and get animals in and out efficiently and have protection from them, and it's very well marked, so you may well have seen it.
Yes.
And so it's well marked.
I
And
use,
And
yeah.
it's an initiative between the 3 towns that we share.
So I use the automatic door a lot, actually, and what I'll do is I'll kind of climb in. It's fun. It's hilarious. We'll get these Cujo Beethoven dogs that everybody thinks are cute, but they know me. They just do. So they want nothing to do with me. And I'll pull up, and they're going nuts, and I'll pop open the side door from the front compartment where I'm totally closed off from them. I can throw a couple treats out the window and a couple in the back through the cage, and they'll hop in the back, and all I have to worry about is somehow securing them so somebody can shut the door. And then off we go. And we got them. Yeah, it's neat. It can be quite comical. So.
I think we want cameras.
Yeah, right?
The vehicle itself is supplied by the town.
It's a retired state police canine unit, and why it has that door is that the officer, if he's down and under attack, can release the dog.
That's
So
not,
what.
that's not where I'm going with
Yeah, I was
this,
just
but
telling you why it has that equipment on it, but yeah.
So then why do we also
I'd like
have
to see
mileage?
that.
Yeah.
That's the part-time person's mileage.
Yeah.
So the part-time person is not using the regular vehicle?
Correct. Right.
But they're only driving 23 miles a week?
Is that what's allotted?
That's.
They're
if
only.
If I take that and I look at it, you get $800 in there. If you take
Right.
the IRS rate, that's $23.
So she's.
That's $23, 23 miles a week.
Mr. Wilson? Yep. So she's only supposed to go out for emergency circumstances. She's allotted 13 hours a week for that. But like I said, most of these things are actually delayed and held over till the following day for me. So we offer them a response of a phone call, tell them what they can do in the meantime, and then the following day, I'll go handle, whatever business needs to be handled. Because even for like bite reports and stuff like that, unless it's an immediate, attack or something, I would go out for that even. But I can't contact to verify rabies information or anything like that until the businesses are open that following day. So unless it's a health concern, somebody's actually being attacked or an animal is injured, we don't go out. Deputy assists, of course, if we're called out by another agency, fire department, sheriff's department, then we'll attend.
How much have you had to use the sheriff? How much have you had to use the sheriff to back you up?
Oh, I back them up.
Well.
We work very well together.
That was one of the concerns at one point was that, making sure that you weren't going into a situation there too.
Yep, absolutely. So now through Cumberland County Dispatch, we actually have access to Spillman. So we have the computer programs, and that's all loaded in the car and a laptop. We can run some of these addresses and stuff that we go to beforehand. There's always some concern because honestly, nobody has time to run every door that they're going to knock on. So something I would like to look at in the future is getting some type of protective wear or something like that. Uniforms have made a huge difference, but injuries to animal control officers are on the rise. We are visiting the same places that the sheriff's department, police departments are, and we're rural. So, and at some point we would like to look into getting our radios, a portable radio, because we do have a radio in the car, but that's only as good as if we can get back to the car.
Any other questions?
I would just make one final comment, and that is, this has gone from something that I used to get significant complaints and citizen upset over to 0 complaints. This department. So you must
I stopped complaining dramatically.
Well, you're doing something right, because I check with the other town managers, and and they're in a similar situation. So
That's always good.
Any other questions? Thank you for being patient and waiting.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Bye.
General assistance.
So no change. The biggest change in general assistance is that we have a new administrator. I did it for a number of months, maybe the better part of a year, while we were transitioning from Alice Hamilton, now Jenny Silverblade. Jenny is, I think I can say pretty much fully engaged now on it.
Oh gosh, yes.
But for a long time we worked, I did it myself, then I worked with her on it, but now she's really come into it, so I think we offer a very well thought out and program that is legally compliant and up to date and audited frequently by the state, as every other town, and so 70%
Is our reimbursement.
is our reimbursement on this. So I think we run a good program, and thankfully, I guess we are able to marshal resources from many other agencies, and we don't have a high level of general assistance here, but what we do have, we try to handle efficiently and compassionately, and try to get people in touch with the agencies that can help them if we can, or in addition to what we can do. Yeah.
How much is it cost?
Any questions on assessing? Sorry, general assistance.
Trying to jump ahead.
Yeah, I know. Next, we'll look at assessing.
We didn't really have, I mean, the budget was so unchanged that we didn't ask her to come for it. So. What?
Go ahead.
I don't really have a lot to say. It's pretty much status quo for, well, I guess it went up like $5. We did do the software update was completed in for the fiscal year 2019, where you can see that we actually spent $23,000, and now we're back down to our normal $9,000-ish.
I think one thing that helps Kurt and helps contain costs is that he has a great assistant, Kayla. Kayla's now has been for some time now a CMA. She passed her state certification, so she is available and can answer a lot of routine questions, even more than routine questions sometimes, for citizens. So although Kurt's a day a week, and then much more frequently, during the time when he's picking up value and assessing properties, having Kayla and Kurt together is a good team. Once again, a place where you get a lot of complaints, we get 0 complaints.
Everyone good with that?
Yep.
County tax.
Roll's favorite thing.
Did you guys get the send out? Because you sent it out, didn't you?
Did I
This
send
year's-
I don't know if I did or I didn't. The county tax, I think I
Yeah,
probably.
you did.
I did, I printed it.
You okay?
Yeah, so maybe Ralph wants to give this presentation.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed that they're not here to present it again.
I didn't ask them.
Secret
I didn't ask them
retired.
to.
But, I mean, essentially, it's going down a little bit, but that does not mean that the county tax is going down. It just means that our rate of growth was a little slower this year than some of the other towns. I mean, even, they're still increasing, their overall budget's increasing 4.53%. We're going from 788,000 down to 784,000. But the only reason that we've gone down is because our total valuation did not increase as quickly as some other towns. So it's still the same issues as it always has been. It's the same.
You have to get vested.
They get what they want.
Vetted or no vested?
You pay it. Here's my opinion.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yep, there's
Any other questions on tax, county tax? Insurance, page 26.
26. I'm budgeting, they told us to expect an increase this year. We've had quite a few vehicle claims. We had the big,
Tower.
the big tower claim. We're gonna try to look at a different provider through Kai's Insurance, but we haven't worked that out. We don't have any quotes yet, so this is my estimate as to what it's gonna be. And as is the workers' comp. Workers' comp is going up. I mean, we're not claim heavy in workers' comp, but our payroll is increasing every year because we're adding positions. So, that's a modest increase from 2020. So there's really, there's a bit of a change in the regular line, but I went back and looked at this, and we're still doing better than before we got the quote from Kai's in terms of general insurance. I don't know if we wanted to do health insurance yet or employee benefits, because that's going to depend on, we added my estimates for the employee benefits, which includes health insurance, life insurance, retirement, Social Security. They're based on us adding some positions, most notably 3 positions in the fire department, and a part-time position for code enforcement. We're picking up
Public Works position.
a public works position. We're not adding it because we added it during this
Right.
current year, but it's coming into this year's budget.
What page is that on?
25. That's employee benefits. So, and the health insurance, Rolf is helping us with our health insurance now. We moved to a calendar year, so we're sort of insulating ourselves from, the increase is gonna be limited to January to June of '21, because we're locked in now from January 1st of 2020 to December 31st of 2020. When I value this, when I work up the estimate, I look at what we think the increase is gonna be, and I also look at what I think the, what's the word I'm looking for? The participation rate of our HRA. I'm looking at that too, and we just settled up 2018, and that was, no, they just settled up 2018. The HRA people.
Oh, okay.
They're a year behind, so they're just settling up 2018, and we had like about a 54 utilization rate, that's the word I was looking for, utilization rate. So all of the numbers here really flow from what's your head count. And the only other difference that I did put in was in our retirement line, currently our vesting rate goes from 1% to 5%. So at 5 years, you get 5% match from the town. And what we tried, looking at the pay rate study that was done on the fire department, one of the areas that they critiqued was was the benefit, the retirement benefit package. So I wanted to work through some numbers. So the retirement line is, again, it's based on what I think the count is going to be. But I changed it from 2 to 6, from 1 to 5 to 2 to 6%. And it added about $8,400 to the cost of the retirement system. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys to see how you felt about it, just to quantify it. This is how much it's going to cost if we want to upgrade the retirement.
We found that through this KMA private sector study that we were offering competitive, wages and benefits, but they did say that, they gave us a number of strategies that could help us to become more competitive, improve improvement retention. So that's one of them. So it's a recommendation or suggestion, but overall things look pretty good, and that was good to find out from that study.
But you're asking for almost a 25% increase.
In what?
Insurance.
Employee benefits.
Right.
Because of the added positions and the
You've got added positions, and you've got, we built in a 3.5% increase in medical insurance. The retirement, like I said, that added
8,700.
What was it about? I think it was like 8,300, or we'll just say 8,500 for round numbers. But it's also driven by the fact that wages are up, position counts up.
Why would we want to go from 5% to 6%?
8,400.
To make our package more competitive.
To what other towns
Competitive to
offer?
what?
Other towns.
Other towns in the area. And also, if we're going to merge with the school, it makes our side of the equation more competitive with their side of the equation.
Do you have a high turnover rate
In what?
in your employees?
No.
We have a hard time sometimes recruiting
Oh.
people. People look at the benefit package as a part of what they decide. I will tell you that when we were looking at, mechanics, we were outcompeted by the town of Freiburg, of all towns. I felt certain we'd get this fellow, and a big part of it was an analysis of our benefit package to theirs. And anyway, that'll just leave it at that.
What was the deficiency in the package?
Well, in the health program was the main thing. I mean, he looked at the health program, but anything that we can do, the idea of the study was to be as competitive as we can be. And so, I mean, this isn't the end of the world either way, but we're pointing it out as something that they cited as something that could improve the competitiveness of the town. If you think it's fine the way it is, that's okay too. But it's we're trying to follow the private sector study that's giving us strategies to help us to be more competitive and to compete.
I know that.
Well, but wait
But
a
I mean,
second
just because
too.
people aren't leaving, I mean, I don't know if equity comes into it at all, but the idea of trying to pay.
We lost a mechanic pretty quick over benefits.
Yep, but on the other hand, is we also got a mechanic in that thinks our benefits are pretty good. So it really depends on the person, is what it is. It's a mixed bag.
I've seen that people come in from this year and actually sit down and want all of the information before they accept the job. All of the retirement.
Which is something new.
Well, right.
Who's your carrier? What's your deductible? Can I see your formulary? They want to know it all, and that's not been my experience here, but it's happened at least 3 times this year. So.
Right, and I guess I'm looking at it too, is we don't have a high turnover, but we're also trying to attract people to more for the fire department and stuff like that. But I guess what I'm also saying too is, you're going to offer it for one department, you're going to offer it across the board. That's
Right.
the
The
way I
other,
look at it,
the big that's a good point too. But the other thing is, this is the big one, and we're looking at it. We haven't made any, determinations yet. But these folks who work in public safety want main PERS, mainstay retirement. That's what they want. They don't want what we have. Who wouldn't want that deal? Right?
Right.
Right. So anyway, it's an optional thing, and I think that's in part our job, is to say, these are ideas. You can say, that's not a good idea.
You can say yes or no, and we
But,
can,
so we understand that.
we can certainly, this is the biggest, this is the, this is the one that needs to get fine-tuned the most, based on decisions that you make.
Right, and if you make a set of different assumptions, decisions, whatever, it'll change significantly.
Are you talking about main purse and social security at the same time?
No.
So
If
it's
it was-
one or the other?
No, it can't be one or the other. It has to be both.
Really?
Yeah.
I think once you're in the state retirement system, you're not eligible for
Right.
Social Security.
No, that's not true.
No, it is, well,
It was back in 1984, the town made a decision as to what to do, and we have a Section 218 agreement that says your employees will have Social Security, period. You can get whatever you want in addition to that. It all happened in the 1980s, and if you look, like South Portland, they do both. Westbrook, they do both. City of Portland, they don't do Social Security. That's why they have a hard time getting rid of people, because when people retire and they don't have Social Security, they don't have health insurance if they don't have in their quarters of Medicare. And but anyway, it's an all or nothing. It's not, you can't change your mind once you've committed to Social Security.
So it's variable by town, or can be, to some degree.
It was, every governmental entity made that decision
So it's
at
variable
the
by
time.
town.
Well, even the state, the state
Right.
doesn't have Social Security. You don't have Social Security there. They made their decision. Everybody made their decision based on the information that was, and it was irrevocable. You can't change it.
so let me ask.
Is it true that the employee has to have enough quarters in Social Security in order to earn it?
Right.
Yes.
I think it's 12 quarters.
No, 40 quarters.
40, yeah, 10 years.
It's
So let
more
me
than
ask
that.
you-
It's actually 30 years.
Let me
Actually,
ask-
to
well,
have
actually it's 35.
unreduced benefits.
Yeah.
And then if you want the absolute max, you wait till you're 70.
Well, you can get Social Security and PERS.
You can.
Wow.
The problem the thing that I don't know is that you guys once had PERS at the town level, did you not?
Way before my time.
Maybe in the 70s.
So I don't know what the ramifications were of that particular decision. That I have no idea. But I do know how Social Security works.
Well, I'll tell you personally, I have PERS and I have Social Security. And the only reason I have Social Security is because I had my 30 years on before I took a PERS job. There is an offset.
Mm-hmm. The offset comes in.
And it's a pretty big offset, if I remember right.
The offset is in PERS though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could be saving and saving and saving and wind up with 1% in PERS if you load up your Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So I think, that needs a really clean explanation for somebody that's gonna make that jump. I think.
but anyhow, the point is, that's the thing that the young people are looking for.
Yeah, benefits, in
Correct.
general, benefits.
And because it's such a competitive market, it's a
You
solid
think young
market.
people are looking more for benefits than pay?
I think pay.
Well, no, I'm saying they're looking for that benefit. When they're in public safety, they understand the value of that
They want a
benefit.
family.
They want both.
Yeah.
And we're in a market where there's.
And they want flexible hours too.
And they want flexible, then they want the.
I want everything.
True.
And I don't wanna work.
That's right. But no, I
Here
wouldn't
comes
say
Bernie.
exclusively that, no.
Moving
Are
on.
we done? Are you taking a shot here tonight, Kathy? or-
Any other questions for insurance?
Still revenues.
We have revenues and we have TIF.
All right, let's move on. Let's
All
go to
right.
revenues on page
Revenues.
6.
Page 6. We didn't build anything into the budget in terms of surplus. We kind of changed it up a little bit last year where we put in the warrant article to give you guys the flexibility of when you get down to the wire, how much you want to put in instead of trying to put in a value at this juncture, so this has no value. We have the tassel top revenues in there. We are gonna have to set the tassel top revenues pretty quick so that they're in effect
I'm sorry, I was being interrupted over here.
for when the park opens.
Yes.
So that's, I believe that that's in the works with Joe to get, so that can get approved by the Board of Selectmen before the park opens this year. And those estimates of revenue came from Marshall.
Yes, they did.
That's what I was asking him, are they accurate? Because $80,000 for entry for a summer just seems like a lot of money.
Well, it's under. And what I did is I took a magic formula, 13 weeks minus 10% rainy days at $5 a person, and got all that stuff. Got all the numbers, and I think 80 is a little low, especially if we put in a cash control system.
What is the designated fund balance right now?
Go over 100 easily.
256, and that's on page 7. My calculation's on page 7. You guys just voted. Oh, I'm sorry. I just like, what's the excess? That's where my mind was going.
The balance is 2.4.
2.4.
2.5.
Right.
But
So
that's at the
exceed-
end of June 19. What's the current balance?
I don't usually look at, I mean, you'd have to look at what's the budget utilization so far this year. I'm gonna say we're probably, I mean, it's been my experience that we usually have between 100 and 200,000 that we ends up going back in.
Because it looks like revenues are exceeding budget.
Where are you looking?
I'm looking at 2020 year to date.
Oh, that's as of, yeah, that's as of December, I'm sorry, it's as of December 31st. The 2020 year to date is December 31st, so yes. So if you look at that, we're exceeding where we are in the budget now, yes. I increased excise tax by about 50. There was no other really huge increases that I booked into this that I can see. I mean, most of these are based on, our interest on taxes is going down because we're collecting quicker. Let's see, what else we get in here? Yeah, I mean, there's no significant increases in any line item. I mean, the budget on interest income, that went up because we have been doing better. This is the first year that we've had at least 2 years to look at in the new computer system. Remember back when I first started, we were transitioning over, and now I can actually get, because I like to look at a budget with actual instead of, because before it was just budget. I like to look at budget and actual because you learn things by doing that. So I don't really, there's not like a huge, I mean, it looks like if you take out the surplus that's in the 2020 budget, you're looking at a modest increase in revenue for this year.
How is Public Works going to create a revenue?
We have been, it's like there's 3 components to it. One is we're plowing for the school. Another one is that we're renting out
Equipment to other towns,
and the third one is that we're sort of employee sharing one employee, so we're booking.
We've entered into an arrangement with the town of Naples where we share an employee. They have a summer employee, we need an extra winter employee. So one of our goals in a local cooperation, so it's a 50-50 deal, split that cost, because they have virtually no equipment up there. So we've come up with a schedule for equipment rental for the utilized primarily by this employee. And so, you know, it's on a priority basis. I mean, our priority, first priority, they were used a one-ton dump truck that we use in the wintertime, and so we were getting, paid for that, the road grader, other things. If we're not using it, we would make it available.
Mower, wasn't it?
The mower that we mowed for that town, so we have these employees, and so we're trying to get better utilization of both the employees and the equipment through creating revenues by working with neighboring towns. And then now, I think in this year's budget, they're looking at purchasing a piece of our surplus equipment. So we're trying to form relationships with some of these lesser developed towns to our mutual advantage. They are happy about it, we're happy about it. It's been a good thing. So it's really kind of innovative. Not many towns are doing that kind of thing.
Why am I not seeing anything for property taxes?
That's sort of like the final calculation. So it doesn't, so I don't usually put in a number for that because it goes from the
Generally, the revenue schedule is the non-property tax revenues.
right. Because that's what you're going to vote for revenues. When we go to page 4 and we look at the net assessment for taxes, that's where you're going to see what the number is. Where it says 14,396,406.
That's the grade level, or anything that's not non-property tax is going to be that.
That's why you want to see the growth in the revenue schedule, not on the front of the schedule.
Any questions on revenue? Let's move on to TIF. TIF is on page 29.
The changes in the TIF this year, we're going for another 100,000 for our revaluation reserve. So we put aside 100,000 this year. We're going to add to it another one next year. We hope to get it up to about 350 was Kurt's plan, and then we're going to revisit how much we actually need to actually do the deal. Well, then we'd start looking at going out to bid.
Where are we on state valuation right now?
Well, that's a good question. Do you
Yeah,
know that?
on
I don't know.
state valuation, we're $1,175,550,000.
I mean, as a percentage.
That I don't know that, but I can get.
Because we were at a couple of years ago, 101%, 100%.
Yeah, we're still, I think Kurt would say that, unlike prior years where we're still within the range, we're dropping to the lower end of the acceptable range. We're working towards that goal, and, by the time we get to the, we're getting closer to needing to do it, I guess is what I'm saying. I can't tell you the precise year, but that's why we're doing it in this way. But the quality ratio is dropping.
I can get.
We'll
I
get
can
that.
email that number out tomorrow. Once
Yeah, we'll
Kayla's
get
in.
that.
Playground improvements, I want to keep the 35,000 in their place. Because when we had that meeting, did you put it somewhere else maybe?
Yeah, I did. It's in CIP.
Okay. I looked back on rec and I wasn't sure. I know Nathan says that he used it the other day at the meeting.
No, I put it in CIP because if you don't use it all, you normally want to carry it forward. So I want put them all in the same spot.
Okay.
But what I did this year is because there was some excess capacity in the TIF, I took some of the pavement money out of the CIP and I put it in the TIF so that we could fully expend, or we could absorb some of the leftover TIF money, basically. So those were the changes. Was 2 years ago, before we started on the assessing, we had put some of the appropriations. We put some playground money, and we also put some of the paving money in there. And this year, in order to use up the balance, I put some more paving money in there. It was easier to put in one thing than two, or nickel and dime things along the way. Other than that, we didn't really have any major changes here. I mean, we used to contract out our ordinance updates, and we really don't do that. The ordinance update expenses are usually split between legal and also our planning money. So I got rid of that, $5,000, which wasn't anything. The cable negotiations,
Well, we've decided because we were working as a group of towns on cable negotiations, and then GP Cog swallowed that effort when the consultant that we had proposed to work with ended up taking a private sector job, so he went off and did that. So then GP Cog swallowed the effort. We're not a GP Cog member, so they hit us with an assessment or a proposed assessment that would have, in my view, been equal to greater than dues. So I went back, negotiated a deal with this consultant. Should they get something out of their negotiations that will be better than what we have now, I have a plan in place to replicate that, program with my consultant and save the cost. So I'm covering it, but I'm not part of the GP Cog consortium. I have a plan, but I'm not part of the consortium. I'm not paying that extraordinary fee because we're not a member to be part of the consortium of towns. That's a kind of a complicated answer to say we're on it, but we're not with the rest of the towns.
and we are gonna realize substantial streetlight reduction. I've got $5,100 in there for next year, as opposed to our current year budget of $21,000. That's my estimate based on the maintenance fees that Realterm has and just the electricity that we actually need to purchase for them.
We shouldn't have any real maintenance with the lights too. I mean, these things last and last. So, and of course, the company that's doing the maintenance work, because they have so many towns, they have set up shop in South Portland, and so they're here. So we'll call them and they come take care of it.
Are the ornamental lights done yet?
Are they what?
The ornamental lights.
They're not
No.
part of this.
We looked at the
expansion.
cost of the ornamental conversion, and it was really expensive. But I'm looking at options on doing that in the future, but not at the cost point we're at right now. And so, no, they're not part of it right now. There's 69 of those.
The other problem that we have with the ornamentals is that all the wiring is beneath the ground, and gets eaten by little rodents.
Right, but we're if I told you what I was thinking, you probably, I'm thinking there's going to be another alternative for those that's rodent-proof, technologically forward-thinking, and energy efficient. I got a plan, but it's not ready. Are we done with this?
Not with the TIF. Is there any other questions for the TIF? Now we are.
Okay, so Kathy has suggested to me that less is more, so I got a whole page of things I wanted to say, but I'm not going to. But I want to make 2 points. 2 points, ready? The 2 points are, this is more of an evolutionary budget that's in keeping with Raymond's budget goals and spending priorities. So we're evolving, I think, as a town, and we're going in a good direction is what I want to say there. And I say, look at the graph on page 3. That tells you the 10-year budget story of this town. And I would say it says municipal spending and performance goals set and met. That's what I would say, set and met. Take a look at that graph. So anyway, and obviously I want to thank everybody who was involved in, doing the budget. It was a real team effort, and I think everybody really did a great job. And we're ready for amendments, of course. That's the nature of the game. But things are going well in the town of Raymond.
Any public comment from Budget Finance Committee?
Just a question, Don. It's a 2.64% increase in the budget. What does that equate to in dollars?
About 35 cents on the mill rate and dollars. I don't know.
And that does not include the school budget, though.
That's putting the school in at zero increase, which isn't going to happen.
Which I looked and I haven't seen anything that they've put out there yet.
They haven't processed it yet.
They haven't.
My guess is gonna be 4.5 to 5%.
The point is, the part that you can control, I think you've controlled it. And I think we've gotten good results as a town. And I think the directions that we've moved in have been, wise and good directions. And so that's all I can control is what we're doing.
So what is the dollar increase in the budget?
You mean just the municipal budget?
Yes.
$341,000.
Okay. Thank you.
That's, of course, as we say, dependent on all those things that you have to decide. The staffing's a big piece of that.
What about public comment?
Whoa, slow down. She's last on the schedule.
I want Kathy to say something.
Any other
She's been
public
here all
comment
night.
from Budget Finance? Public comment from Select Board? Public comment.
And of course, I also want to thank the Select Board and the Budget Finance Committee, obviously, too, so, team effort.
I still have 3 books. I don't.
I offered public comment.
Yes.
Kathy Goslin, 11 Eagles View Drive. I just came to support you guys tonight and support Bob, but I do want to say, when Joe asked earlier, are employees leaving? The fire department lost 2 of their paramedics last year. And it took us 4 months to hire a full-time person, who didn't work out, but then we were lucky we turned around and hired somebody else. But we've had a part-time position, a 24-hour-a-week position that was open for 7 months that we just filled this month. So we do have turnover there. And you say, well, 2 paramedics aren't a lot, but we only have 5. So we did lose 2 last year. And why did they leave? Because bigger towns and more money. And they said that. So just wanted to point that out.
And I would say probably also in terms of retirement benefits.
Oh, one of them really wanted the peers, and he got it.
Right.
So, thank you.
And we did have a mechanic that didn't last too long.
But I don't know if that's related to anything.
That's not related.
Well, he left us.
Yeah, but that turned out not to be the case, so that's all right.
Well,
I'll entertain a motion
He's
to
got a new
adjourn.
job.
I'll make a motion.
he left us for more
A
money.
motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you.